Hello, Porter family. I hope that this finds you doing well, not only physically and emotionally, but certainly spiritually. I want to share with you a devotional thought out of the Old Testament, out of the little book of Habakkuk, and we will focus on chapter 3, verses 17 through 19 in just a moment. But let me give you just a little bit of context. Habakkuk was obviously a prophet to the nation of Judah in the time period of about 625 to 600 BC, somewhere in that time frame. And Judah is getting ready to be taken into exile by the Babylonians. And so as he looks around him, he sees a lot of ungodliness. He sees a lot of problems in their nation. And quite frankly, he's wondering why God is not doing more in the current situation. And so the first part of this book talks about a dialogue between Habakkuk and the Lord. And he asks his questions, makes his complaints, and the Lord responds to those. And so by the time we get towards the end of chapter 3, Habakkuk has come to the realization that in spite of what's going on around him, God is on his throne, God has a plan, and God is going to carry those plans out in his own way, in his own timing, for his own good. And so towards the end of chapter 3, beginning with verse 17, we find these words. Though the fig tree does not bud, and there are no grapes on the vine, though the olive crop fails, and the fields produce no food, though there are no sheep in the pen, and no cattle in the stalls, he says, yet I will rejoice in the Lord. I will be joyful in God my Savior. The sovereign Lord is my strength. He makes my feet like the feet of a deer, and he enables me to go on the heights. I think there's a couple of words of encouragement for all of us as we find ourselves in some difficult circumstances. And the first is that Habakkuk reminds us there in what he has just said that our joy is not found in our circumstances. In verse 17, he laid out all of those things that were very negative in terms of no crops, no animals, nothing good going on. And yet he said, yet I will rejoice in the Lord. And he even said, I'll be joyful in God, my Savior. So he focused on the person of God, and he focused on the salvation of God rather than focusing on his circumstances, and he was able to rejoice. I encourage you to do the same today. A second thing that he says there is that the sovereign Lord is my strength. I find that interesting, that not only do we rejoice in the Lord, but the Lord is our strength. And the way that he says it here in Habakkuk, it's not the idea that God dumps a portion of his strength into our lives to deal with the circumstance of the day or whatever we're facing at that particular time. But it says that God, the sovereign God, is our strength. Not that he gives us a portion, but he personally is our strength. If all the Lord did was grant us a measure of strength, I would probably sometimes wonder, is it going to be sufficient for what I'm encountering today? But when he says he is our strength, that reassures us that we have all of the resources that we need available to us for whatever comes our way. And then the very last thing that he says there in this chapter, in this book, is he says, he makes my feet like the feet of a deer, and he enables me to go on the heights. In other words, to the high places. He's saying that when we rejoice in the Lord, when we rely upon the sovereign Lord as our strength, that he gives us the ability to overcome, to go to those high places, and to perhaps even be able to get a little bit of a glimpse of God's perspective on what he's doing in our circumstances. And he gives us all that we need in order to endure, but also to live victoriously. So I just encourage you today, brothers and sisters at Porter. I miss seeing you, but until we meet again, I pray that you'll rejoice in the Lord and that you will understand that he is your strength and that he will take you to the heights. Have a great day.